Opposition, Kemi Badenoch.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And, Mr. Speaker, may I welcome the Prime Minister's efforts to advance peace in Ukraine and his joint statement on Greenland. The last few days have seen significant international events: the US operation in Venezuela, threats towards Greenland, and an agreement to put British troops on the ground in Ukraine. So it is frankly astonishing that the Prime Minister is not making a full statement to Parliament today. No Prime Minister, Labour or Conservative, has failed to make a statement to the House in person after committing to the deployment of British troops. His comments about making a statement in due course, quite frankly, are not good enough. It shows a fundamental lack of respect for all of us here and the people we represent. Mr. Speaker, the US is Britain's closest military ally. However, we are clear that the sovereignty of Greenland is sacrosanct. So can the Prime Minister tell us what influence is he bringing to bear with the US administration to ensure that is respected?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, let me be very clear about what was agreed yesterday, because military plans were drawn up some months ago, and I've updated the House in relation to that. Yesterday was a political declaration that sits under those military plans. If there were to be deployment, there would have to be a legal instrument. Mr. Speaker, deployment would only be after a ceasefire to support Ukraine's capabilities, to conduct deterrent operations, and to construct and protect military hubs. Mr. Speaker, there will be a statement to the House at the earliest opportunity. There could hardly be an opportunity. They claim they want to know about this, and they're trying to shout me down. Mr. Speaker, in relation to the House, if there were a decision to deploy under the agreement that was signed yesterday, then I would put that matter to this House for a debate beforehand and for a vote on that deployment. That is consistent with recent practice, and I'll adhere to that.
Mr. Speaker, why is today not the earliest opportunity? The truth is, the Prime Minister does not want everybody in this House to be able to ask him questions. So he leaves it just to Prime Minister's questions half an hour. On Monday, at least his Foreign Secretary stood up for 2 hours and 15 minutes. You know, it was a non-event, but at least she did that. He is scared of us being able to ask him questions. Yes. 6 questions. Yes, he's here.
Please. I've also requested that we do need an early statement. This House should always be informed first. So I don't like the chantering. Let the questions continue.
Well, one of them asked, but he is here. He's got no choice but to be here for Prime Minister's questions. That's why he's here. If he could skip this, we know he would do. But back to the matter at hand, Mr. Speaker. We all agree, all of us here agree, I think most of us here agree, that NATO is the bedrock of our security. The future of Greenland is of fundamental importance to the future of the alliance. And I am sure that the Prime Minister agrees that it is essential for NATO leaders, including and especially the US, to meet. Will the Prime Minister call for an urgent meeting of NATO leaders?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, she says she wants to hear about Ukraine. She's got 6 questions. She's not even asking a second question about what we did yesterday. She's got the opportunity. Mr. Speaker, in relation...
Sorry, can I help the Prime Minister? You don't need to worry about the responsibility of the questions of the opposition. That's the urgent.
Mr. Speaker, NATO is the single most important and effective military alliance the world has ever seen. In the 18 months we've been in power, I've done everything within my ability to strengthen NATO. We had one of the strongest NATO meetings last year, the summit, where we had more members of NATO and more unity. When I arrived back to the House to make a statement, which of course she asked for, her position was I shouldn't have missed PMQs, I should have empty-chaired the NATO summit. That's how serious she is about NATO, Mr. Speaker.
You didn't answer the question, question, Mr. Speaker. I asked him if he would call for an urgent meeting of NATO leaders. We can all see that the situation is moving rapidly. I also note that he has still not had a call with President Trump. That is concerning 4 days after the events in Venezuela. But yesterday, he announced that Britain and France had signed, he says, a political agreement to put troops on the ground in the event of a peace deal in Ukraine. So given the Prime Minister is not making a statement about that deployment of British troops abroad, one of the most serious decisions a government and a parliament can take, irrespective of what he says, can he at least confirm how many troops would be sent to Ukraine and whether they would be in a combat role?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I was with NATO allies yesterday, all day, in which we were discussing security in Europe, in particular security guarantees for Ukraine, and we made significant progress. And I'm glad that she has welcomed that. Of course, I will speak to President Trump. I spoke to his senior advisors yesterday. We were with them all day. But Mr. Speaker, she asked me about the deployment. We released the statement yesterday. It's clear from that, but I will be clear with the House that there would only be deployment after a ceasefire. It would be to support Ukraine's capabilities, it would be to conduct deterrence operations and to construct and protect military hubs. The number will be determined in accordance with our military plans, which we are drawing up and looking to other members to support. So the number I will put before the House before we were to deploy. But I'll do more than that. If we went as far as a legal instrument to deploy, which would be necessary, I would then have a debate in this House so all members could know exactly what we're doing, make their points of view, and then we would have a vote in this House on the issue, which to my mind is the proper procedure in a situation such as this.
Mr. Speaker, it is clear that the Prime Minister either does not have the detail or does not want to give us the detail. Yes. But this is important. He should be calling an urgent meeting of NATO leaders. He should have spoken to President Trump by now. This is important because if any such peace deal is breached, we would be in direct conflict with Russia. If the Prime Minister is committing troops, he must give more detail on how he intends to ensure our armed forces are fully resourced.
This interruption is brought to you by ExpressVPN and their New Year deal. New Year, new VPN, and a huge saving of up to 80% if you act now. You're busy planning how to get in shape, but the hackers are planning how to get into your accounts. ExpressVPN locks down your connection so you can start the year protecting your data. This offer ends on the 7th of January, so scan the QR code or click the link in the description now.
Before the budget, the Prime Minister said it was his ambition to spend 3% on defence in the next Parliament. That could be as late as 2034. It is time to move from ambition to commitment. We have now had the budget. So can the Prime Minister now tell us, in what year will the UK spend 3% of GDP on defence?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, just on this serious issue she puts to me in relation to security guarantees and the American role and our dialogue with the Americans, I can assure the House I spoke to President Trump twice over the Christmas period in relation to this specific issue, along with members of the E3, along with European allies. That has been a constant course of our discussion. There's no question of acting on this without full discussion with the Americans, and their senior negotiators were there at President Trump's request yesterday and on his instructions, and they were talking to him during the course of yesterday as we negotiated. So to assure the House, because it is a serious position she's putting to me, on the question of security guarantees, there is nothing between the UK and the US, and we've been constantly discussing this over many, many weeks and months. We've made huge progress. I have personally spoken to President Trump about it on 2 occasions since we were last in this House. I do want to reassure her and the House in relation to that really important issue. In relation to defence spend, I'm proud that we're investing to keep our country safe, that we have increased the defence spend. That's provided for in the budget. It's the biggest sustained increase in defence spending since the Cold War, and that means, Mr. Speaker, better kit, better housing for our forces, and better defence as an engine for growth. Mr. Speaker, that does compare to their record. Ben Wallace, who was on the radio this morning, the longest-serving Conservative Defence Secretary, admitted that on their watch the armed services had been, in his words, hollowed out. And our defence.
Mr. Cartledge, you expect a lot, I expect something back, and that's silence. Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, they shout shame. I'll pass that on to Ben Wallace. Mr. Speaker, the defence spending that we've put in place is 3 years earlier than the unfunded plan that they left behind at the last election.
Kemi Badenoch.
Mr. Speaker, I heard what... Oh, wait for it. What Ben Wallace said was that spending had fallen under all governments. 3%, the last time, Mr. Speaker, the last time spending was at 3% was under a Conservative government. And yes, while we welcome the increase, something that we supported, can I remind the House that this is a man who sat in the shadow cabinet and tried to make Prime Minister a man who said we shouldn't even be in NATO at all. So I don't need to take any lectures from him. The world is changing. We need to spend more on defence. He did not answer the question about when we would get to 3%, yet he knows up until 2031 how much he's going to be spending on welfare. He doesn't know. That's in the Red Book. The Red Book has no money allocated for defence. We need to move from ambition to commitment. And, Mr. Speaker, this is important because this isn't just about money. If the Prime Minister is deploying troops to Ukraine, those troops need to know that we have their backs. Last week, 7 former SAS commanders, 7 former SAS commanders warned that Labour's Northern Ireland Troubles Bill will wreck our special forces. Not me, that's the SAS. In November, 9 retired 4-star generals warned that his bill was a direct threat to national security. And even his own Northern Ireland Veterans Commissioner has said our veterans are being treated worse than terrorists. So, Mr. Speaker, is it not madness to be putting veterans in the dock for serving their country at the same time he is deploying today's soldiers into Ukraine?
Mr. Speaker, that was embarrassing. She said that Ben Wallace was talking about all government. They were in power for 14 years and they hollowed out our armed forces. Copyright Ben Wallace. Secondly, she talks about the shadow cabinet. She has in her shadow cabinet a shadow attorney general who is advising Abramovich at the same time as we are imposing sanctions on Russia and trying to use that money to support Ukraine. How can someone sit in her shadow cabinet advising someone trying to escape sanctions and pretend that their policy is to support us on sanctions? Mr. Speaker, when it comes to Northern Ireland, they are the party that gave immunity to IRA terrorists, terrorists who killed British soldiers. Their flawed act was struck down by the courts, which left our veterans with no legal protection whatsoever. We're introducing a fair and transparent process with a package of rights and protections for our veterans. And, Mr. Speaker, there is no equivalence between our armed forces who fought bravely in Northern Ireland and terrorist groups. And if the Leader of the Opposition wants to go back, if her position is, to their old flawed legislation and give immunity to the IRA, she should stand up now and say so.
Mr. Speaker, let me start by talking about the Shadow Attorney General. Yes. Yeah. Do they know what the Shadow Attorney General is doing? He is defending veterans pro bono against the actions of this government. On this side of the House, Mr. Speaker. We will defend those who defended us. But why don't we talk about the actual Attorney General who is sitting in Cabinet, the man who defended Jerry Adams, the man who's trying to bring Shamima Begum back into the country, the man who is helping to surrender the Chagos Islands. I will take our shadow Attorney General every day of the week against his Attorney General. Mr. Speaker, we protect our veterans. I want the Prime Minister to know we protect our veterans. What he is doing to veterans is disgraceful. But this is serious, Mr. Speaker. I don't want the House to be under any illusions. I do not want the House to be under any illusions. The Prime Minister should know that we will absolutely support any efforts to help bring peace to Ukraine. We will work with him to ensure NATO remains the bedrock of our security. But we cannot write a blank check when he is also surrendering the Chagos Islands, surrendering our veterans to lawfare, and surrendering to his backbenchers by prioritising welfare handouts over defence spending, as if the world has not become more dangerous. So, Mr. Speaker, isn't it time the Prime Minister changed course and for once put the British national interest first?
Mr. Speaker, she talks about the Shadow Attorney General. Of course I accept that lawyers have to represent all sorts of clients. Of course I accept that principle. The question is whether the Shadow Attorney General can sit in the Shadow Cabinet when the party opposite says it supports us on sanctions. We want the money from Chelsea Football Club to go to Ukraine. I'm not sure whether that's her position. If it is her position, presumably it's something they discuss in the Shadow Cabinet, advised by a Shadow Attorney General who is representing the very man whose money we want to send to Ukraine. If she can't see the conflict of interest in that, then she shows no judgment and no leadership at all. The same old. It's a new year, but the Leader of the Opposition's got absolutely nothing to offer the country. She is totally irrelevant. Nobody is listening to her. Mr. Speaker, this is the year when on this side we turn a corner, people benefit from the decisions we made, £150 off energy bills, freezing rail fares and lifting 500,000 children out of poverty. We're turning the corner and there's much more to come.
Leader of the Liberal Democrats, Sir Ed Davey.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Can I wish you a Happy New Year and everyone in this House? And can I welcome the progress made on security guarantees for Ukraine yesterday? Mr. Speaker, Geoffrey Robertson, KC, is a respected authority on international law. He's also the head of the Prime Minister's barrister chambers. And he couldn't be clearer. President Trump's actions in Venezuela are illegal. He says the United States, and I quote, is in breach of the United Nations Charter and has committed the crime of aggression, which the court at Nuremberg described as the supreme crime. Does the Prime Minister agree with his old mentor, or has he got it wrong?
Well, there's plenty of things that Geoffrey and I have agreed on and disagree with over the years, but let me set out our position. It is our long-standing position that Maduro was not a legitimate president in Venezuela. And so nobody, I think, sheds any tears at his removal. And what we need, what we were saying before the weekend, and we say again, is there needs to be a peaceful transition to democracy in Venezuela. Now, the benchmark of all actions of all countries is, of course, international law, and it is for the US to justify its actions accordingly. My focus is on the defence and security of the United Kingdom. And yesterday, we were working with NATO allies, including the US, on security guarantees for Ukraine. And it's only with security guarantees that we'll have a just and lasting peace in Ukraine, which is vitally important for Ukraine, for Europe, and for the United Kingdom.
Sir Ed Davey.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister just looks ridiculous when he won't tell the truth that Trump has broken international law. But turning to Donald Trump's next target, the Prime Minister was right to give the Danish Prime Minister his backing over Trump's threats to annex Greenland, and I welcome his joint statement with other European leaders. But does he also agree that if Trump does attack Greenland, it will be the end of NATO? And given that frightening possibility, does he accept that the UK needs to increase defence spending more quickly than currently planned and build new alliances with reliable nations?
Mr. Speaker, let me be. The Greenland issue is obviously very, very important. I thank him for raising it. The future of Greenland is for Greenland and the Kingdom of Denmark, and for Greenland and the Kingdom of Denmark alone. And yesterday, he will have seen that I put out a statement to that effect, along with fellow allies in Europe. And of course, NATO is hugely important, the single most effective and important military alliance the world has ever known. He keeps encouraging me to sort of tug away at parts of NATO and to choose between Europe and the US. That would be a strategic mistake for our country. And yesterday we were working with our NATO allies, including the US, our NATO ally, on a just and lasting peace in Ukraine. That will not happen without security guarantees from the coalition of the willing, backed by the United States. That's a vitally important issue, and we made progress on that. And there won't be a just and lasting peace in Ukraine without those security guarantees, and not achieving a just and lasting peace in Ukraine is not in our national interest, and that's why I'm applying so much time and energy to seeking to get that outcome.